As a retro import gamer, it's likely that a common YouTube genre you run into a lot is the game hunt. Shout out to the likes of Scruffy, Kid Shoryuken, and Retro Rewire for providing some of the best of this. And it's easy for videos of that sort to inspire a lot of envy among those of us stuck in North America or Europe, as you have to be really lucky to have the import gaming scene so immediately available and affordable in brick-and-mortar form. However, as it has with many things, the internet has really shrunk the world in regards to getting games from all regions around the globe. And while we have places like PlayAsia, Video Games Plus, and Amazon to provide on the modern gaming side of things, eBay is in many ways becoming a little Akiba of its own style to provide us with our retro fix. I'm Patrick, this is Little Akiba Games, welcome back to the shop. I've wanted to do this video for a while now, where I just cruise through a handful of retro import shops on eBay and see what kind of deals and ultimately what kind of haul I can walk away with, largely inspired by those retro import buyers I mentioned just a moment ago, in order to remove a possible perceived barrier of entry people might have into the import market, and even show that a similar shopping experience is very possible. I planned on doing this by scouting out a selection of 5 eBay stores ahead of time to take exploratory dives into, then see how prices, selection, and other elements lined up, and accumulate a haul to go over at the end of the video. Except I ran into one big problem out of the gate, if it can be called a problem. The first store that I encountered, Japanese-Subcultures, had such a wonderful selection and great prices that I couldn't wait until I got my paycheck. Waiting probably would have resulted in the Super Famicom selection being more picked through than it already was before I could shop from it. Instead, I pulled out my credit card and made an executive decision, and I'm glad I did. That one order made up the foundation of what is now my Super Famicom library, and that's not the only impressive thing about it. Stay tuned on that. I did end up picking out 4 other stores from that initial research surf, and I did wait until I got paid to do any shopping from them. There are a lot of great options to shop for retro import games on eBay, and I was happy with all the ones I looked through in different ways. To that end, there was actually a 6th store that I decided not to cover as its shipping rates were an absolute non-starter, so just know that these stores will have to meet a certain standard before I'm even willing to give them coverage. Finally, before I get started, just know that I did make some edits to the shopping video in the interests of time, but wanted to include as much of the experience as possible in case you, the viewer, had any of these games catch your eye. I'm still very new to these kinds of videos, and it will admittedly take me some time to strike the right balance between content depth and brevity. And of course, I'll be back at the end of the video with my haul. For context, I spent this run shopping for Super Famicom and PC Engine games, but was certainly open to buying for other platforms. See you at the end! So before we get started on this, I just want to apologize that I'm not going to be able to take the sound from this and do my usual post-processing, edits, mixing, things like that. So you're probably going to hear the occasional stutter. You're probably going to hear me breathing over the microphone and awkward pauses like that one. So just apologizing for that in advance. This is being recorded in real time, and I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot of editing to it. So just be ready for that. The first store on here is going to be Japanese-Subcultures. This is where I got the aforementioned bundle that I talked about at the top of the video. And I just wanted to go through this store and show you what it's about. It's kind of picked through right now, but I've talked to the store owner and he says that he's going to be restocking pretty regularly from the sound of it. So definitely keep this one in mind because it's probably going to be one of the better stores on eBay for import games, especially retro import games. So here we have a PS3 lot, and again, this is kind of picked through. You see a lot of gray on here, but the prices cannot be beaten. I'll use this menu. So $1.25 for DMC, $2.25 for DMC4, Uncharted for $3.10, the original Modern Warfare 3 for $3, Metal Gear Solid 4 for $2.98, which is insane. Winning 11 2013 for $2.24, Final Fantasy 13-2 for $298, and that's about all that's in stock at the moment. But again, I'm under the impression that frequent restocks are going to be the order of the day, shall we say. Really tempted to get in on this Final Fight 2, even though I'm not trying to collect complete boxes of games. I'd really rather have loose cartridges for the Super Famicom, but this actually prices pretty strongly, even against a lot of loose cartridges that I've seen around, so keeping an eye on this one. He's got stuff that's on the really affordable, commons and things like that. He's also got some really primo stuff, like this PC Engine GT or Turbo Express. It's been modded to the gills. It's got an RGB mod, it's got a new screen on it, a larger screen, and yeah, I mean, even if you find a regular unmodded one that still works out in the wild, you're going to pay. So it's no surprise at all that this one's a pricey boy. So just keep that in mind. Taking a look at Famicom stuff. Now this actually isn't very picked through, so prices are going to vary, but this is Ninja Jajamaru-kun that was best introduced to us Westerners on the Virtual Console over on the Wii. Lode Runner. Salamander. This is actually one of the better prices I've seen for Salamander as well. Otherwise known as Life Force. Yoshi's Egg, or Yoshi no Tamago. We just called it Yoshi. Fun puzzle game if you haven't tried it out. That one's really not bad if you have a 4-player adapter. This is the Genji and the Heike clans. Classic. And this is the original Mario Brothers, the solid screen arcade game. So yeah, pretty good selection there of Famicom games. I'm not shopping for the Famicom at the moment because I don't actually have a Japanese one or a converter that I know the location of, but there's one game that I could run into that would change that, and we'll see if I run into it at any point today. And anything with the name Cotton on it is going to cost you. So this is the Super Famicom game lot that I shopped out of at the top of the video, and actually made a point to get stuff out of ahead of time because I didn't want to wait until after I did this video and risk having it picked through. But you can still see some titles worth picking up in here. This is Battle Dodgeball. Super Momotaro Dentetsu. This one is a curiosity. It's called Kamaitachi no Yoru. It's a visual novel, and I don't know anything about it, what it's about, how good it is, how bad it is. All I know is that I see it very frequently in Super Famicom game lots. Apparently it's a really common game that is still very easily acquirable to this day, which is kind of interesting for a visual novel from the 90s. I have no idea what this game is. So if anyone wants to jump in the comments and let me know, I'd be very interested. It's from Banpresto, so it probably doesn't suck. And it's only $1.25 too, so Captain Tsubasa 3, Captain Tsubasa 4, and this is kind of the part of the video where I'm going to mention the 4 horsemen of bad discount game genres in the Super Famicom and probably some other consoles as well. If you're looking for retro games and you're sorting them out by price, the very bottom of the barrel is going to be occupied by 4 types of games: soccer, mahjong, pachinko, and horse racing. Now, if you're into repros and you want to get some donor cartridges to make those with, this is probably a good way to do it. But your mileage will probably seriously vary when it comes to actually shopping for stuff you intend to play. Now, this one's up there, but it's a Sailor Moon game, so it's probably really popular, and I know there are some good beat-em-ups and fighting games to be had under this brand, especially in 4th gen. So I'm guessing this is one of the beat-em-ups. But that was just a quick look at Japanese-Subcultures. I really wanted to give this shop some attention because I sourced some really good games from it already. And so, huge shout out to them. Highly recommended. If they can keep a steady flow of games coming through, then this is going to be a real highlight. Okay, Animage Japan. I may or may not have already bought something here. I'm not honestly certain. I bought a whole bunch of games when I first started getting back into import retro games, and this might be how I became aware of this shop. I gathered up a bunch of them to go over while I was doing this video to hunt for retro import games, and the name seems familiar, so we'll see what we find here. That is not bad for Street Fighter Collection. Not bad for Gunbird. The only problem I have with this shop so far is that they don't really have their games divided out by system or whether they're complete or not. The mark of a good store is how well organized it is. If they make you sift through a bunch of stuff that's completely unrelated to what you're looking for, that can be a problem, especially if they have a lot of merchandise. So that's just something that's going to factor into my assessment of any given eBay shop. I'm not shopping for Sega Saturn games today, but this is compelling. Vampire Savior, that is one of the games I do have on the Saturn. That's not bad for Gradius 2. Panel de Pon. I do not know anything about the PSP version of Wangan Midnight. Is that based on the Maximum Tune series, or is that from before Maximum Tune was a thing? No, 2 copies of Gradius 2. Nice. That's a really good price for Astral Chain. I'm just not sure if it has English language support on the cartridge. If it does, I might jump on it myself. Mega Man 7. The Mega Man games in Japan are surprisingly affordable, but they do seem to be on the way up, so if you're looking to gather some of those up to play, now would probably be a good time. Another Wangan Midnight. That's not bad for Super Donkey Kong, but I think I've seen it cheaper around. That isn't bad for Darius Gaiden. Muscle Bomber, aka Saturday Night Slam Masters. Seems a little bit on the pricey side, but I don't really have anything to compare it to at the moment, so this might be worth circling back to. $20.45 for Mother 2, and it has free shipping. Rockman and Forte, a little bit pricey, but I don't have anything recent to compare it to, so that may actually be pretty good. Snatcher, an importer favorite. Thankfully, speculators have not ruined the Japanese aftermarket the way they have the Western one. So there's still a lot of really good stuff out there to be found. I have no idea what Xenosaga Freaks is. Some spin-off that we never saw in North America. I'd think I would have heard about it, though. This is actually one of the best prices for Super Metroid that I've seen yet. Never go wrong with Super Monkey Ball. Really anything that's derived from Marble Madness. Ooh, if you like shmups, this is a good one. And this is one of the worst parts of shopping around eBay, is these really annoying CAPTCHAs. This is not the last one we're going to see, I guarantee it. That is not a terrible price if you like 3D Mario games. North American copies are skyrocketing in price, but the Japanese versions are just kind of lifting slowly. Another Street Fighter collection. This one has the spine card. That's pretty cool. Another Vampire Savior. Wait, why am I back at page... Oh, that's... Oh, lovely. What page was I on? Five. Okay. That's better. I'm glad I figured out how to navigate these before I started recording, because those security measures are annoying. I wouldn't go as far as to say they ruin the experience, but they're definitely a hindrance. X-Men vs. Street Fighter minus the RAM cartridge for $53.90. That actually isn't bad for an import gaming staple. Physical copy of Fighting EX Layer. I wouldn't mind having that. This is Super Castlevania 4, I believe. And thereby, this is not bad. Oh, Strikers 1945 2. Good shmups, I'm telling you. This is probably the worst a port could possibly turn out and still be incredibly impressive that they even got it on the Super Famicom at all. In addition to being a port of one of my favorite Street Fighter games altogether. This is about what it costs in North America as well the last time I checked. That's one that I would file under curiosities. Last Bronx. Fun little 3D fighter. I have the PS2 version. This I actually need. I never did get King of Fighters Neo Wave for the PS2. Wouldn't mind having this either. Mega Man X3, probably one of the high points in the entire IP, to be completely honest with you. PSP remake of Tales of Phantasia? I'm going to be honest with you, friends, I didn't even know this existed, and now I feel kind of robbed. But that's why there's an import scene in the first place. $15.83 for Grandia is a steal. I love that. That is not bad for Mega Man X1. I wouldn't mind having SVC Chaos for the PS2, but it'd have to be a lot cheaper than $35.87. Wonder how many pages we're dealing with. If we get to about 15 or 20 with no end in sight, I'm going to move on to the next store. Couple of amazing items there. More evidence that the import market has not been ruined by speculators the way that it has in North America. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's coming, but for right now, we're living the good life. Dodonpachi, really good shmup. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Huge gap between the North American and Japanese prices. That's a really good condition, Mega Man 5. All Common Riders, Rider Generation 2. I have this. It's a really underrated, underexposed beat-em-up for the PSP. If you like beat-em-ups, I can't recommend this one enough. It is incredible. That is slightly insane for a copy of Super Mario World, but that is a game I'm shopping for just because I feel like I'm required to own it now that I have my Super Famicom. Nice, Daytona USA, not the version that I'm shopping for, but hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Hot damn, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom for $25.57. Really fun fighting game that brings back memories of X-Men vs. Street Fighter and Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. That is way more than I paid for Final Fantasy V. So this is Ys vs. Trails in the Sky. I used a snippet of it in one of my earlier videos in the channel rebrand, and it's basically a Power Stone-like that uses Falcom characters for its roster, and it's really, really good. Has a little bit of a learning curve, but once you have it down, this is pretty much the definition of a diamond in the rough. Did not know there was a Saturn version of Race Driving. I wonder if this is the same version that is known as Race Driving a Go-Go over on the PlayStation. I might have to find out at some point. Seiken Densetsu 3, I've actually seen this one close to $3 or $4. $10.88 copy of Gradius. Can't really complain about that. Dragon Ball Z Shinbu Toden. This one is on my list, but it looks kind of nasty up here. I'm not sure if that's just a tear or if there's some underlying water damage. The lighting isn't great. I am definitely looking for a copy of this, though. $24.25 for Pokemon Gold. I mean it, friends. If you're not building your inroads to import gaming, learning your katakana, learning your hiragana, you are overpaying to play retro games here in North America. So $44.10 is really good for Sonic Jam compared to what we pay here. I'm not sure how good I'd say it is for the contents of the disc, but I guess we're paying about that for Sonic Origins Plus and getting a lot more, so there is that to consider. That is amazing for Super Robot Tyson 30, and I may circle back to this one later. That is by far the best price I've seen for it. Lunar Silver Star, $16.39. Look that one up on the PlayStation in North America. Oh, I need a copy of Romancing Saga, but I'm not about to pay $16.07 for it. Layer Section. That's a good one. Only available digitally here in North America. $16.02 for Saturn, or for Super Bomberman 3, sorry. Gonna remind myself that that one's there. Yeah, that's no surprise. It's an import gaming icon. Even just a loose disc, it's gonna cost you. Thankfully, you have other cheaper options today, but having that physical Saturn copy is pretty elite. I mean, even Pokemon Coliseum is not going to cost you an arm and a leg when you import. That's way more than I paid for Final Fantasy IV. I do need that, but I'm not about to pay $21.07 for it. I'm going to try and nab it at some point for around what I paid for 5 and 6, which is in the $3 to $4 range. And there's the comparison that tells me that I'm in the right to compare 4 the same way. Trails to Azure, $14.72 for the PSP. That's a nice copy of Sega Rally Championship. I guess you're going to pay for Pocket Fighter no matter what region you get it from. I believe this is Samurai Showdown 4, but I'm not positive. It's not a bad deal for KOF 96. It doesn't come with the RAM cartridge, though. One of the better prices I've seen for Gundam Wing Endless Duel. That's a game that is probably earmarked for my library, but I'm not pulling the trigger yet. This is not one I'm familiar with. Clearly something to tie Kamen Rider Kuga to the Showa period iterations of the series. There's a treasure, no pun intended. Absolute staple for the Saturn. And the PlayStation, to be honest. Kamen Rider Batride War. Sosei. I'm not sure if I know about this version, so... Actually, it's on the PS4, so I know I don't know about this version. It's like Dynasty Warriors with Kamen Riders. And if you really like the IP, that's a hell of a proposition. I did not know there was a PS2 version of Dragon Quest V. Price ain't bad either. I might actually consider going for that if I hadn't just bought it on the Super Famicom. $35.85 for A Link to the Past. That is extortion. I got that in the $3 to $4 range too. Honestly, some of these Super Famicom prices are giving me some pause about other things that looked like they were priced well. They must have printed a hell of a lot of versions of Kamen Rider Batride War Sosei. I've seen it for the PS4, the Vita, and the PS3. I didn't even know that iteration existed. For all I knew, Batride War Genesis was the last one. But hey, more hack and slashes for me to get into. I'm telling you, learn at least a little bit of Japanese and save a lot of money. Call in Google Translate on your phone for help when you need it. I actually need to pick this up. That's a good price, too. And I know that's a good price because I've actually been shopping for it. Yeah, the Super Famicom selections here are really exposing the credibility of some of their pricing. Anything that I end up buying out of this shop, I'm definitely going to shop around on before I pull the trigger. I've heard very good things about this game. Really good beat 'em up that apparently includes some Tekken characters. Okay, now this is the game that I would actually buy a Famicom to play. We got it over here, but only on the Game Boy. It was actually my first Game Boy game, and it's a really fun puzzle game that didn't get any exposure at all. If you're looking for games to play, puzzle games in particular, on the Famicom or the Game Boy, absolutely check out Flipple. It is outstanding and does not get the credit that it deserves. I do need Shitoko Battle 94. Okay, I love me some Outrun, but I'm not trying to drop a Benjamin on it. Yeah, this shop just keeps going, and it's just not organized well. Which is a shame because they've got legitimately good stuff. But between the terrible organization and the suspect pricing on some of their items, I'm going to move on to the next shop. This is Jidzle, and or Jidzle, I have no idea. I actually was planning to lead off with this, but didn't organize my tabs well when I started recording. This is an interesting shop because it's based in the US. So if you want local shipping, you don't know for sure if you want to put up with maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks for something to get here. You don't want to put up with waiting for customs to process things. Everything you buy from this shop will come from the United States. So you'll get normal domestic shipping on it. I've actually spoken with the proprietor of this shop, as I recommend doing whenever you're shopping for games on eBay. Find out if combined shipping is possible, or if there's any kind of discount for buying games in bulk. This is a really good shopkeeper, and the selection is probably the best that I've run into on eBay altogether. Let's start taking a look at Super Famicom games. Super Robot Wars is something that I really want to get into, and I might start doing it with the Switch now that we're getting English translated versions of stuff that isn't just original generation. Original generation is a completely original cast and basically unique IP for Super Robot Wars, where the mainline games are drawn entirely from existing anime properties, and it's a lot more interesting for that reason. So, yeah, this is compelling. Would I import them for older platforms? Not right away, but it's definitely something that I'm thinking about as I buy more and more into import gaming. Area 88, otherwise known as UN Squadron. It falls into the pit that Capcom generally seemed to for a lot of their early Super NES games, where they took all these co-op games from their arcade division and ported them in single-player form to the Super NES. Final Fight being a famous example. I've said recently that single-player shmups have to really bring their A game in order to get past not having co-op. This game absolutely brings its A game. I absolutely recommend it if you have a Super NES, Super Famicom. It's a classic that people don't talk about enough. This is the fighting game that has been getting a lot of attention from niches of the fighting game community in recent years, and I'm sure there's a copy of it destined for my library. I don't know if 36 bucks is good or not for it, but I'm keeping an eye on it. See what I mean about regional price differences? Dragon Ball Z Hyperdimension, that's on my list. So is Super Butoden 3. Espelis Denki 2, that's Lufia 2. Final Fight 2, high on my list of games to get. This is a really good deal for Mystery of the Emblem. Then here's Genealogy of the Holy War. Still called by some the best game in the series. Gun Hazard. That's one I'm watching for. Okay, that still doesn't give me any insight as to what it actually is. I'm probably going to have to research that. Legend of the Mystical Ninja 2. And 3 and 4. Prices aren't really blowing me away, but Fatal Fury Special. That's one I'm probably going to end up getting eventually. Gokujo Parodius. Not sure about the price, but I am in the market for this one. Gradius 3, nice. See, this is what I'm used to seeing for prices for Gundam Wing Endless Duel. So that's why seeing them in the $30 range, 30 to 40, really surprises me. There's another copy of Kamaitachi no Yoru. Don't think it's going to be the last one we see here either. What's this? The font reminds me of something, but cannot think for the life of me what it is. And that's it for the A through M. Now let's look at N through Z. Panel de Pon for $15. Pilot Wings in box for $15. That is something to consider. Popful Mail. We only got this in North America on the Sega CD. It will cost you probably an organ or two. It's a curiosity because it's the only game that was released during a very brief, short-lived merger between Sega and Falcom. And it's a fine game in its own right. If you like Ranma 1/2, this is the Super Famicom game to get. It's Ranma 1/2 Super Battle. I still can't believe that they released the atrocious hard battle game in North America and then held on to this one, which is a vast improvement. But obviously, Ranma 1/2 was a lot of people's anime gateway drug, myself included, and this is the best fighting game you can get in that IP. And I am going to add that to my watch list because I am coming away with a copy of that today. I don't know who I'm buying it from, but I'm coming away with it. The first appearance of Return of Double Dragon. $27 might be pretty good for it. I don't know. I'm definitely going to shop around. It's a little high for X3, but compared to what you pay for it over here, it's still pretty good. Romancing Saga for $8. Yes, please. Seiken Densetsu 2 for $10. Seiken Densetsu 3 for $13. That's Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana. I may circle around for these, but I don't know about the prices. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind when you're shopping around for import games is to always weigh the prices alongside the shipping. I would rather pay $15 for a copy of a game with free shipping than $10 for the same game with $19.95 shipping. And I have run into that. So definitely do the math before you hit buy it now. I'm probably going to end up with a copy of SimCity. Star Ocean 1, nice. I still think I can get Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting for a better price. Oh, this is really good for the Super Bomberman games. No, don't add to cart. Add to watch list. Again, much better to buy these games from Japan rather than pay North American prices for them. I am not paying $30 for Super Mario World in any condition. Sorry, man. Always good to see Tengai Makyo games around. This is Tournament Fighters. Now, Ys 4 is a peculiarity because there are actually two games out there called Ys 4. There is the one on Super Famicom and Super NES called Mask of the Sun. This is not the actual Ys 4. That title belongs to Ys 4 Dawn of Ys over on the PC Engine and I think a couple of other platforms. Still a good game. Falcom wouldn't allow the Ys name to be put on a game that isn't good, but it's not that game in the chronology, and they themselves did not make it. Just to keep that in mind. Let's see who did. I want to say it was Koei or somebody. They aren't listed on here. Wow. High prices for Link to the Past. You want to talk about disappointment. The 04 Champ series, my first exposure to it was a preview of it in EGM back in the day. And it looked like an amazing racing game ahead of its time. You had the cockpit view and everything. I finally got to sit down and play it, and it's just drag racing. Which explains to me how they were able to get away with that perspective in a 4th gen game, but still very disappointing. And that brings us to the end of that list. Let's see if there's any PC Engine stuff to pick through. Oh. Again, when you have a lot of merchandise, it's really good to separate it out. Some of the prices are really good. Some of them are probably compensating for low and domestic shipping. But this is the best selection I've run into on eBay. And that in itself is worth a lot. Japanese Treasure Store M. Never mind all the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff, I don't know what that's about. There's certainly a lot of it. Video games and consoles. Bloody hell. Let's try that again. Okay. Categorizing them by system would have been nice, but at least we get this screen. It looks like a lot of it's going to be combined entries, which I always love to see. And this is another seller that I have reached out to personally and touched base with, so let's see what we have here. It's not even all that picked through, which is nice. Okay. Okay. Got my attention. Don't worry about that $15 shipping because I have checked and combined shipping is offered. Obviously, reach out to the seller for details, but man, I don't even like Donkey Kong Country that much, and this is a good deal. $5 for Super Mario World. Yes, please. That is exactly what I want to pay for that game. Okay, that was definitely worth the visit. Let's take a look at Famicom stuff. Again, I'm not really shopping for Famicom, but I'd like to know what's available because I might be before long. Already there's no Flipple, unfortunately. Clue Clue Land, underrated game. Yet again, compare this to what you would pay in North America. It's like night and day. Starluster is one I wouldn't mind having. All right. Yeah, that's a respectable selection. So for personal order, this means that they were held out for somebody else's purchase. Which is a shame because I would buy all of these even though I already have Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 2. In fact, I might even have to ask if that's necessarily still on hold for somebody. And then our final stop for this video is Hit Japan. This was recommended to me by my good friend and Smashpad colleague Filippo D'Onofrio. And he warned me that the prices might be kind of out there, but I'm definitely curious at the very least. So let's go through Hue card games, and they have them separated out by complete games and loose cards. So huge props to these guys already. I'm already seeing quite a bit of stuff that I want. I want Bari Bari Densetsu, but not for that price. I've seen it way cheaper. This must be the pricing issues that Phil was telling me about. Oh, we do have some loose hue cards. That's unfortunate.
Jesus!
I think I know why. I think that's the one that you had to mail order. You couldn't find it in stores, so there are very, very few copies of it out in the wild, but yikes. There's another one. Good lord. That's a game I'd love to have, but I wouldn't love to pay that price for it. I want to know what the story about this one is. If any of you know, let me know in the comments. Sounds like a good story. Crest of Gaia. I know that one made it over to North America, but I cannot remember the name of it over here. Oh, that's slick. You want Dragon Spirit and Fantasy Zone, you have to take our copy of Deep Blue with you. Probably the only way they're going to get rid of it. That's a really good price. There's Bari-Bari Densetsu for a good price. I'm probably actually going to buy some stuff from this store. Sealed copy of Daisenpu. Something you don't see every day. Sealed copy of Cyber Knight. Okay, these guys have some sealed product, and it's not even that unrealistically priced. Yeah, I'm liking this store. F1 Pilot. This one is a curiosity. They were trying to make a very extreme simulation with not a lot of hardware to work with. And to some degree, they kind of succeeded. They definitely made it a lot further than I would have expected anyone to. $5 is probably a good price for it. Clax, there's a classic puzzle game. Ooh! I just recently put some respect on this game on a previous video. That's actually real good for Final Soldier. That is passable for Gunhead, aka Blazing Lasers. Oh, I could be in a great deal of trouble here. I'd compare these guys to Mandarake, but some of their prices are too good. Obviously, it's all in really good condition. Well, the vast majority of it anyway. Some of the prices are out there, and some of them are surprisingly down to earth. I can see doing a lot of business here. $13.20 for a sealed copy of Fire Pro Wrestling 3. I've seen open copies of Knight Rider going for more than that. That's impressive. The Kung Fu, aka China Warrior. Don't play this game. That's all I'm going to say. Don't buy this game. That's an interesting one. Climbing prices. The year is 2023, and people are now finding out how good Outrun is. Apparently. The Newtopia games, Legend of Zelda clones that are probably better than they have any right to be. Highly recommend them. Bonk 3 for $300. Oh, it's sealed. Yeah, that's probably about what it's worth. Hot damn. And it's the HuCard version instead of the CD, so even better. Didn't think I'd be seeing a sealed copy of Bonk 3 today. Or any day. Power Drift, more impressive that they tried making it on this system than how it actually turned out. Nectaris, aka Military Madness, highly recommended if you love strategy games, especially of the turn-based variety.
Oh, hell no!
Maison Ikoku, nice. Not the first anime series that I would think of in the way of good source material for a video game, but I don't know, maybe it's a visual novel. I'm certainly not going to hate on Rumiko Takahashi. Apart from the ending of the Ranma 1/2 manga. That has my attention. Nice. Victory Run. Reasonably priced, fun game. A little north of what I've seen this game going for, but I'm absolutely going to end up with a copy sooner or later. As Kid Shoryuken would say, we got some rarefied air here. Alright, let's look at Super Famicom stuff. Oh good, cartridge-only stuff is divided out. That's good for Super Castlevania 4. That's pretty good for Zelda. So what I'm seeing here is bundles of stuff that you'll actually want to play, combined with some of what I've called the Four Horsemen of bargain bin junk. Again, mahjong, soccer, pachinko, and horse racing. Ooh. Okay. That's nice. We did get the Saturn version of Albert Odyssey over here, but take a look around eBay or price charting and see what it's going for today. I could see buying that. Now we're talking. Hell yes. I'm going to have to speed it up here because I'm already looking at a really long video. I promise I was trying to keep it to an hour. $8 for Super Bomberman 2. $5, not bad for SimCity 2000. Yes! Yes! Okay. Probably one of the best scores of the day right there. Whatever else I run into, I'm happy. Wow, Mystery of the Emblem for $12. Final Fantasy IV for $8. Super Butoden 3 for $8. And just like that, this shop is going to get some money from me. Why is there a Famicom game in the Super Famicom section? Okay. Yeah, suddenly things got real promising. Gonbari Goemon 4, I believe. Oh, man. This store is looking pretty goated now. And I have reached out to them about combined shipping, and they've said they do offer it. This may be where I get my best haul of the day. I'm flying through these at a pretty good pace. Anything Parodius I have to at least look at. Parodius, Gradius, Salamander, anything in that vein. Okay. Hot damn. Mazinger Z, nice. Rockman 7 for 15 bucks. Rockman X2 for 18 bucks. Yes. Panel de Pawn for 10 bucks. Romancing Saga for 5 bucks. I am not paying 95 bucks for R-Type 3, even if it is the going price. Parodius Da for 28 bucks. Chogi Ranbuhen for 5 bucks. Oh, my mind is blown now. My mind is blown and suddenly I cannot do the talking. Oh, jeez. Yes, I am going to have to clean up my watched games after all this. Suzuka 8 Hours. If that was more like the arcade version, I would jump on it. Thunder Spirits. I'm pretty sure that's a Thunder Force game. Yikes. $400 and it's that yellowed. Alright, that is about it for PC Engine and Super Famicom shopping. I'm going to cut away here, but I will be back to run down exactly what I purchased and give you some I can't talk. Give you all some general tips for how to go about shopping and what to consider for import games. I'll be right back. Alright, let's start with the haul. First off is what I came away with from Japanese-Subcultures that has me looking at that store as something special for aspiring retro import gamers here in the West, myself absolutely included. With a subtotal of only $30, I came away with a stack of games including Chomak Imura, or Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Dragon Quest 1 and 2, Dragon Quest 3, Dragon Quest 5, Dragon Quest 6, Final Fantasy 5, Final Fantasy 6, Romancing Saga 2, Romancing Saga 3, Super Black Bass 2, or Basson's Black Bass over here, Super Mario Collection, that's All-Stars, and Zelda no Densetsu Kamigami no Triforce, A Link to the Past. This is a really good mix of global staples that you just absolutely want to have in your library for the Super Famicom, and games that made me really envious of the Japanese side of the gaming community when reading gaming magazines as a kid. It wasn't just the prices that impressed me about Japanese-Subcultures, however. I made the credit card order on the 31st of October, Halloween, a Tuesday, for fear that the games that I wanted wouldn't still be available when I got paid on the 7th. They shipped out the very next day from Aomori and arrived on Friday, November 3rd in Utah. If that's the kind of hustle that can consistently be expected here, this will be an essential store to follow as you get into retro import gaming. With the exception of a single game that I'll get to momentarily, the rest of my purchases came from only one of the other stores that I covered in this video, Hit Japan. It started off with a trio of outstanding PC Engine racing games in Final Lap Twin, F1 Triple Battle, and Bari Bari Densetsu, and then branched off into another stack of Super Famicom games, including Chrono Trigger, Romancing Saga, Street Fighter II Turbo, and then unquestionably the four biggest scores of the shopping trip, Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, Final Fight 2, and Ranma 1/2 Chogi Ranbuhen. Again, a mix of undeniable global staples and 90s import gaming icons that make my library feel all the more complete. For one final game, I circled back to Animage for a copy of Drift King Shutoko Battle 94 to go alongside my copy of Shutoko Battle 2 that I picked up alongside my Super Famicom itself. Being able to go back and rediscover the 2D racing game scene before the Big Four arcade racers dropped has been a real treat in this process of diving back into retro import games, and getting to look at the Shutoko Battle franchise, in particular outside the lens of the bargain bin filler it got treated as here in the West, has especially been a highlight. Now let's talk about the shops themselves. There's really not much I can say about Japanese-Subcultures that I haven't already. They're just getting started out with only 20 reviews when I first found my way to it, but the prices, the level of communication, the service, the shipping all give me exceptionally high hopes for its future. I can see this shop growing into one that every beginning import gamer will have to place a nice big affordable order with to build their initial library very quickly. I both really liked and really hated shopping with Animage. Their selection was stellar, but their prices were all over the place, and their storefront was so disorganized that I had to cut the browsing short after about 22 pages. Enough of their prices were agreeable that I did end up buying a game from them, and I have to wonder how much more I would have found if I could have filtered by console and or completeness. I'll definitely be looking at their selection anytime I'm looking for a specific game, but it's hard to recommend them for discovery shopping or general game shopping by system. I'm truly surprised that I didn't end up buying anything from Jidzle. The prices were just a bit too far north of what I was seeing at other shops, but that also makes perfect sense. I have to put a lot of respect on this store, because despite being based in the US, its selection either stood toe-to-toe with or decisively beat most other stores I checked out in the way of Famicom and Super Famicom titles. Moreover, as a US store, it will have a distinct advantage when it comes to getting games to you quickly, at least apart from cases like Japanese-Subcultures where it felt like they were moving heaven and earth to get my order to me. So while I didn't end up ordering anything this time, I can see myself doing a lot of business here in the future. And I absolutely want to encourage them to keep doing what they're doing because we need so much more of this in the US that it's impossible to overstate its importance. Go see what they've got, and if you like what you see, place a nice big order with them. Japanese Treasure Store M was intriguing largely for its pricing structure. It's a shame that the selection was relatively limited compared to other stores, attested to by the few minutes it took me to look through everything they had, because they're really set up in such a way that it would be a great shop for people who want to buy a bunch of games all at once. Moreover, their communication is fantastic, and I've already had a couple of nice talks with the store owner about what's coming in the future. As with Jidzle, I can see a lot of purchases made from these guys in the future. And that brings me to Hit Japan. I'll be honest, when Phil warned me about the prices, I thought I was walking straight into the online version of Mandarake, the Japanese gaming resale chain known for carrying exceptionally well-kept games and listing them at a premium for their condition. I figured I'd have a lot of fun browsing their selection, but end up buying absolutely nothing. What I ended up getting, however, was much more along the lines of a Surugaya, with an incredible selection that runs the gamut in terms of both condition and price, and even a shipping structure that rewards you for buying large orders. As a result, they ended up getting the majority of my money from this run, and I'll definitely be consulting them whenever I end up buying retro imports in the future. I can see this being an especially good place to get Saturn, PlayStation, and PlayStation 2 games should I turn my attention to those systems, although I didn't look for them there on this trip around eBay. There will be time for that. Now I just want to drop a few tips before I sign off to make your own shopping go much more smoothly. For one thing, communicate with your sellers or even just potential sellers, especially the ones who you can see placing regular or even just repeated orders with. Develop a rapport with them, find out what their combined shipping rates are like, have conversations with them. This is a community. And interacting with your game dealers is one of the easiest, most effective, and honestly most interesting and rewarding ways of participating in it. Also, take note of all your sellers' shipping rates. Combined shipping usually means you pay the full flat rate for the first game and then either a reduced rate or no additional charge for each subsequent game. And this can cause totals to substantially vary depending on who you're buying from, even if the games themselves look to be priced very similarly. This way, when you're shopping, you can calculate what your shipping total will come to when you buy different games from different sellers, and make sure you get the best deal possible. This is actually what I did that pushed me to placing such a huge order from Hit Japan here, and I saved a great deal of money in the process. Just one last thing, if you'd like to see me do more formal eBay game store reviews on this channel, or have any stores you'd like to have me take a look at in a future shopping video, let me know down in the comments and I'll see what I can arrange. I really hope this helped to make the retro import scene more approachable for you, or inspired you to take the plunge at all if you're just starting out. As always, one of my biggest aspirations for Little Akiba Games is to tear down any barriers, actual or perceived, between Western gamers and import gaming, and I always judge my content by how well it does that. That's all for now. If you like this video, then please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All the stuff that lets YouTube know we've got a good thing going on over here. Click the notification bell if you want to know right away when the next video drops. I'm Patrick. This has been Little Akiba Games. I look forward to seeing you back here next time.